My name's Dan Lang. I live on 1037 Lucy Road. My community's been having an ongoing issue with stray cats. Not one, not two, as many as 20. I have an elderly neighbor who's taken it upon herself to feed them. It started last year where she had a bowl of food, and one bowl of food and a little bowl of water. It has now progressed to 5 bowls of food, several boxes with blankets in them, more than one water dish. Last year, there were as many as 20 cats. They had kittens. I don't know if anyone is privileged to the sound of little kittens being made. It is not quiet nor pleasant. I understand from research that I've done that cats are considered free-ranging animals with an asterisk. Not unlike a squirrel, you cannot relocate them, you cannot harm them, and basically they're free to do whatever, wherever they want. I'm not proposing or advocating that we stop pet owners from releasing their cats into the neighborhood. Although, as a dog owner, if my dog was to defecate on anyone's lawn, I would think they would expect me to clean it up. But apparently, if your cat defecates on my lawn or eats a bird and leaves the mess there, that is beyond reproach, and there is no agency, city, county, or state that has any regulation whatsoever over cats. It has gotten to what I believe to be a public safety issue, in that on our street there are many children. We do not have a sidewalk like much of Rotterdam, and my fear is that several of these cats are going to dart out into the road, and someone's going to swerve to miss the cats and hit one of the children, one of the many people that walk with their strollers, or the elderly people that walk in my neighborhood. And I've seemed to have hit a wall in that there's nothing I can do. I've approached my neighbor several times. Her answer seems to be, they're not her cats. They don't live in her house. She merely puts food out, and if they come to her house, then they come to her house. I called the SPCA, I've called animal control, I've called the police, I've called everyone. And as soon as I mention the word cat, everyone just goes, well, it's a cat. As if the cats have somehow reached a level that is beyond foreign diplomats, in that where they're not applicable to our laws, we can at least send them home. Cats seem to be not applicable to the law, but yet we can't send them home. The other day I counted 14 cats at my neighbor's house, in the driveway, on the porch, sunning on the roof. And apparently, I guess there's nothing we can do about the cats. What I would suggest is maybe that we develop some kind of town ordinance that says, well, there's nothing we can do about the cats themselves. There might be something we can do about people feeding them. And if you are going to feed them, then therefore you become responsible for them. Now, with the kittens last year, many people in my neighborhood adopted the kittens because the kids felt bad for the kittens. But I wonder what's going to happen this year when the new group of kittens shows up, I mean, I can't expect all my neighbors to adopt a cat every year. And so at what point do we say we're going to do something about it? When there's 50? When there's 100? I mean, when?
I don't know when we're going to do something about it.
I guess
When
the answer is
on it,
we're
but
not.
I mean, when there's a problem with a cat or something, you can call the animal control.
No, you can't. Cats are not controlled by animal control. They're not.
I think Bob's got the solution.
Geez, I remember about 9 years ago, there was a rather heated debate in this town.
That's
And I
right,
remember
Bob.
there was something called the cat ordinance. I would strongly suggest you call up code enforcement and remind them of the history on that.
But
It was quite, all I'm saying to you, sir, is, believe me, the cat was beat to death 9 years ago. All right? And there were issues that were addressed and was put into the town code. I don't have it in front of me. I wasn't on the board, but I was in the audience. All I can say is code enforcement is aware of that.
and when I did talk to them.
Who'd you talk to?
When I called the town, I don't remember the person
You
I
tell
talked
them you were
to.
here tonight.
But their answer is that they're not the person's they're not the person's cat. They're no one's cat. So they don't apply to any particular. They're free-ranging animals. They're like a squirrel. Actually, they're considered like a squirrel with benefits. They're not even considered a nuisance. They're considered. It's if you looked at a flow chart of everything, there's an arrow that goes way off to the side, and then it goes down, and then it says cat.
I haven't seen that too.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, right.
But the only answer that I have found from anyone, is that I, on my property, am allowed to trap the cats. I can then trap the cat and bring it to the pound, for which they'll charge me $20 per cat. The only issue I have with doing that, because I can get several, I've already talked to several of my neighbors, we would all be willing to chip in. It would take us about 5 minutes to catch a cat. But the problem that we would run into is we would be catching neighborhood cats, and then we would be bringing them to the pound, paying $20. The owner would be going down, reclaiming the cat, and then just releasing it back into the neighborhood. I may catch the same cat 10 times. And I think that, and like I said, I'm not talking about a cat. I'm talking about tens of cats. And I think that there might be, at some point, that it becomes an issue. You know, that if there were, 10.
We'll have the legal counsel look into that.
And you will be, and I think you will be surprised when you look into it, like I have, the extreme that is allowed a cat. A cat, I wish I had the rights that a cat had.
You want to go to the Humane Society? Is that what you're telling me?
I've been to the Humane Society, believe me. They won't do anything about it. Their answer is, it's a cat. Somehow as if that answers every question.
Supervisor will look into that.
I mean, let's face it, any animal that has 9 lives should have some privileges.
Well, 9 lives and 10 kids every year.
I think, Kelly, you could probably
ends up being a lot of
cake,
cats.
can't you? Come on. Let's get Supermouth up here.
Let's feel your pain.
This show would be complete
I have a big
without
dog.
you.
Well, I already yelled at you before the meeting about other things, so we'll go on to the next. Believe me, I know what this guy is going through. And I know that Diane and Holly will tell you that some of the most exciting antics you may have ever seen occurred in this chamber over this problem. But seriously, it's a the burgeoning cat population, not just here but everywhere, is overwhelming, and the issues that go along with them there are health issues. There are, as he's mentioned, unfortunately, cats seem to have more rights than any living being on earth around here. We do have a cat licensing law on the books, as Mr. Godlewski pointed out. It was not the version I preferred. Because mine was much more stringent, and he probably wouldn't be here tonight to say that. But as we all know, these things tend to...
Excuse me. You finally found one person in town that agrees with you.
I got news for you, actually. You more agree with me than you renegade. But we did pass a licensing law that required owners to license the cats. There are 2 different fees, depending on whether the animal is neutered or spayed. It has not been enforced for all intents and purposes. In my opinion, it's not complete enough. It's also something that I've always felt really should be addressed at the state level, because but it's a politically hot issue. The majority of voters have animals, and well, we all know how that goes. So, we had to compromise, and we came up with a licensing law that everybody, could be satisfied with at the time, and the intention was to amend that as time went on, and to, as circumstances develop. But it has gone to the wayside. It's never been enforced, unfortunately, and it's always been my opinion that these cat owners, and as far as I'm concerned, anyone who is feeding animals or harboring them in any way should be considered the owners or caretakers of those animals, and as such should be required to license them if they're going to do that. But the fact is they're every bit as destructive as any dog that we have to license. And it's like you said, if your dog is running loose somewhere, they're going to go and take your dog, they're going to make you pay a fine to get him back, and they're going to make sure they have to have their shots and all this. And but no such thing is required for them, and there's actually many more of them around than dogs who are licensed, and they're required to be contained in some way, either on a leash or in a fenced-in area or whatever. But I think it is something that we should revisit. And just because this gentleman is the only one who's mentioned it lately, believe me when I tell you, it's a widespread problem. And really the only difference between me and this gentleman and others who have experienced this nightmare is they're not here telling you about it. But I know that for a number of years before we addressed this, many had attempted to do it, and it was always kind of swept under the rug, and eventually people get discouraged and go away, which of course is their intention right from the beginning. So the one thing we did initially, and I know that Diane will attest to this too, is we made it clear that we're not going away until you do something about it. So again, we did compromise on a code that is actually on the books and unfortunately not being enforced, and unfortunately hasn't been amended, to address the issues that go with them. There's property damage, there are health issues, particularly where pregnant women are concerned. So I think it's something, and it is a public health issue. It really is. So, it is something, these are legitimate complaints, that he's lodging tonight. And I think that, the board should make an attempt.
Long?
No, but you should do something about it because, again, they are destructive and they are, a health hazard. So if it were up to me, like I said, we wouldn't be talking about it now. It would have been taken care of, but I didn't get my way totally.
It's up to you.
If it's up to me, I'll just rewrite the code for you, and you all say yes, and that'll be the end of it. If you do that, we'll be fine.